You think the mob is just about blood, territory, and business until the city's most dangerous man notices the ugly purple shadows hidden beneath your makeup. I tried to pull my collar up to hide the humiliating reality of my life. Instead, Matteo DeLuca gently traced my jawline, his eyes dark with lethal promise, and whispered, "Tell me his name and I'll end it." Alex Cartwright was an expert at making herself invisible. It was a survival mechanism she had honed over years of trying to shrink a body that naturally refused to be small. She was a big woman, soft curves, thick thighs, and a heavy chest. And in a world that constantly demanded women take up less space, Alex had learned to apologize for her mere existence. But nowhere was she made to feel more monstrous, more utterly worthless than in the four walls of the apartment she shared with Bradley Jenkins. Bradley was a junior partner at a ruthless investment firm. To the outside world, he was charismatic, sharply dressed, and successful. To Alex, he was a ticking time bomb. He weaponized her weight against her daily, chipping away at whatever self-esteem she managed to build. "You should be grateful I'm with you, Pen," he would sneer over dinner, eyeing her plate with disgust. "Who else is going to look twice at a fat, clumsy bookkeeper? You're lucky I have a big heart." But Bradley's big heart didn't stop his hands. Alex worked as the head accountant for ruthless, the most exclusive high-end dining establishment in the city. Behind the velvet curtains, the truffles, and the imported vintage wines, ruthless served as the legitimate front for the DeLuca syndicate. Matteo DeLuca, the undisputed head of the family, ran his empire from the soundproofed offices on the top floor. He was a man carved from marble and ice. Matteo was feared, deeply respected, and ruthless. Yet he ran his businesses with a strict code. Alex had interacted with him only a handful of times in her 2 years there, mostly presenting quarterly earnings or flagging discrepancies in supplier invoices. He had always been surprisingly respectful, his dark, piercing eyes meeting hers without a hint of the judgment she was so used to receiving from men like Bradley. When Matteo looked at her, he didn't see a fat woman taking up too much room. He saw a brilliant mind that kept his millions clean and untraceable. The nightmare began on a humid Tuesday evening. Bradley had lost a massive client account due to his own negligence. When Alex walked through the door of their apartment, exhausted from a 12-hour shift, she could smell the sour stench of whiskey radiating from the living room. "Where the hell have you been?" Bradley's voice slurred, thick with venom. "I was at work, Brad. It's month-end reconciliation," Alex said softly, keeping her eyes glued to the floor, her heart immediately kicking into a panicked overdrive. She tried to step around him toward the kitchen, but he blocked her path. "Look at you," he scoffed, his eyes raking over her dark slacks and sensible blouse. "Waddling in here like you own the place. You think you're so smart with your little numbers, don't you?" "Bradley, please. I'm just tired." Before she could finish, his hand shot out, grabbing a fistful of her hair. The room spun wildly as he yanked her backward. Alex cried out, stumbling over her own feet, her heavy frame crashing violently against the sharp edge of the glass coffee table. The impact knocked the wind out of her lungs. Pain exploded across her collarbone, radiating down her shoulder and ribs. "Shut up," he hissed, his face contorted in rage, standing over her as she gasped for air on the rug. "You pathetic, ugly cow. You're nothing without me. Do you hear me? Nothing." He kicked her hard in the thigh for good measure before turning and storming out of the apartment, the front door slamming so hard the picture frames rattled on the walls. Alex lay there for a long time, the cold seeping into her bones. The physical pain was blinding, but the emotional agony was paralyzing. She dragged herself to the bathroom mirror an hour later. The reflection staring back at her was devastating. A massive, angry bruise was already blooming across her neck, creeping up toward her jawline, while her right shoulder was a canvas of deep purple and mottled yellow. She couldn't call the police. Bradley had reminded her 100 times that his brother was a precinct captain. Who would they believe, the successful investment banker or his hysterical, overweight girlfriend who clumsily fell? The next morning, Alex woke up stiff and aching. She applied 3 layers of heavy, full-coverage foundation over her jaw and neck, blending it desperately. She chose a high-collared silk blouse and wrapped a thick, patterned scarf tightly around her throat, ignoring the stifling summer heat. She had a job to do. If she lost Leclis, she truly would have nothing. The atmosphere inside Leclis was unusually tense when Alex arrived. Rumors were swirling among the wait staff that a shipment of imported liquor had been hijacked and Matteo DeLuca was in a lethal mood. Alex kept her head down, limping slightly as she made her way to the back offices. Her ribs screamed in protest with every step, and the heavy scarf around her neck felt like a noose. She had just sat down at her desk, booting up her computer, when the heavy oak door connecting to the executive suite opened. Lorenzo Rossi, Matteo's imposing underboss, stepped out. His sharp eyes scanned the room before landing on her. "Miss Cartwright," Lorenzo said, his voice a low rumble. "The boss wants to see you now. Bring the offshore ledger." Alex's stomach dropped. The offshore ledger. She quickly grabbed the heavy leather-bound book, her right arm shooting with hot pain as she lifted it. She bit the inside of her cheek to keep from whimpering and followed Lorenzo into Matteo's sanctum. The office was vast, smelling of expensive leather, espresso, and danger. Matteo DeLuca sat behind a massive mahogany desk. The sleeves of his black dress shirt rolled up to reveal intricate tattoos snaking up his forearms. He was on the phone speaking rapid, angry Italian, but he held up a single finger, silently instructing Alex to sit. She lowered herself into the chair opposite him, moving stiffly to protect her bruised ribs. She felt the sweat gathering under her heavy scarf. Matteo slammed the phone down, rubbing his temples before fixing his intense dark gaze on her. "Alex," he said, his voice suddenly out, though the dangerous undercurrent remained. "We have a problem with the Santoro account. They are claiming a discrepancy of 50,000. Show me where they are lying." "Yes, Mr. DeLuca," she said softly. She leaned forward to place the ledger on the desk. As she did, a sharp spasm of pain racked her bruised shoulder. Her arm gave out for a fraction of a second, the heavy book slipping from her and slamming onto the wood. Alex flinched violently, instinctively, throwing her hands up to protect her face, a reflex born of terror. In her frantic movement, the carefully pinned silk scarf shifted. The collar of her blouse pulled open just an inch, but it was enough. The heavy, suffocating silence that fell over the room was absolute. Matteo's eyes, normally unreadable, locked onto her exposed skin. The thick layers of makeup had cracked from her sweat, revealing the vicious, dark, purple fingerprints stamped into her neck, leading down to the swollen, blackened flesh of her collarbone. Alex gasped immediately, yanking the scarf back up her cheeks, burning with hot, humiliating tears. I'm sorry, Mr. DeLuca." The book slipped. "I have the figures right here." "Stop," Matteo commanded. The word wasn't loud, but it carried the weight of a physical blow. He stood up slowly. He was a tall man, broad-shouldered and lethal, and as he walked around the desk toward her, Alex felt her heart hammer against her bruised ribs. She shrank back in the chair, her old survival instinct screaming at her to make herself small. "He's going to fire me. He thinks I'm pathetic. I bring drama into his clean business." Matteo didn't stop until he was standing directly in front of her. He crouched down, bringing himself to eye level so he wouldn't tower over her. His large, calloused hand reached out. Alex squeezed her eyes shut, waiting for the reprimand. Instead, his long fingers brushed lightly against the edge of the silk scarf. He didn't pull it away, but the heat of his knuckles resting against her uninjured skin was electrifying. "Look at me, Alex," he said. His voice had lost all its corporate coldness. It was a dark, dangerous velvet. She opened her eyes, a tear finally spilling over her lashes and cutting a track through her foundation. "Who did this?" he asked, his tone deceptively calm. "And no one," she stammered, reciting the lie she had practiced all morning. "I fell. I'm so clumsy. I tripped over a rug in the dark and hit the coffee table. It's nothing, Mr. DeLuca. Let me just show you the Santoro numbers." "Don't insult my intelligence, Mia Bella," Matteo interrupted softly, his thumb gently catching her tear. Coffee tables don't leave fingerprints on a woman's throat. Alex froze. The pet name, My Beautiful, short-circuited her brain. No one had called her beautiful in years. Bradley certainly hadn't. It's a personal matter, she whispered, her voice trembling. Please, sir. I need this job. I promise it won't affect my work. Matteo's jaw ticked. The muscles in his neck strained, betraying the violent rage boiling just beneath the surface. He saw everything. He saw the way she hid her gorgeous curves in oversized frumpy clothes. He saw the way she apologized for breathing too loud. And now he saw the violent evidence of a man who was breaking her spirit. You think this is about your job? Matteo's eyes darkened, turning entirely black. He leaned in closer, the scent of bergamot and cedar wrapping around her. Tell me his name, Alex, and I'll end it. No, she gasped, pure panic seizing her. She knew exactly what Matteo DeLuca was capable of. If he killed Bradley, it would unleash a war, or worse, she would be indebted to a mafia boss. No, you can't. You don't understand. He works in finance. He has connections with the police. It would bring heat on you on Ruthless. Please, Matteo, just leave it. She didn't realize she had used his first name until it slipped out. Matteo's gaze dropped to her trembling lips, a possessive fire igniting in his eyes. I don't give a damn about the police, Matteo growled softly. He stood up, towering over her once more. But this time he looked more like a shield than a threat. Go home, Alex. Take the week off. Paid. But the Centauro account? Lorenzo will handle the minor details. You will go home and rest. Matteo walked back behind his desk, his demeanor shifting back to the untouchable boss. But before she reached the door, his voice stopped her. And Alex, you are a vital part of my family now. No one touches what is mine. I will find out who he is with or without your help. Alex fled the office, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm. She didn't see Matteo pick up his phone the second the door clicked shut. Lorenzo. Matteo barked into the receiver, all gentleness eradicated. Put a shadow on Miss Cartwright. I want a full dossier on whoever she lives with by midnight. Bank accounts, debts, daily routines, everything. Matteo looked at the spot where she had been sitting, his blood running cold with a terrifying protective fury. The man who laid hands on his bookkeeper was already a ghost. He just didn't know it yet. The subway ride back to the Upper West Side felt like a fever dream. Alex sat rigidly on the hard plastic seat of the downtown train, the rhythmic clacking of the wheels over the tracks echoing the frantic, terrified beating of her heart. She kept her chin tucked securely against her chest, her oversized trench coat pulled tightly around her heavy frame despite the stifling afternoon heat pressing into the subway car. Ordinarily, she would be agonizing over the way the coat made her look wider, acutely aware of the judgmental glances from thin, impeccably dressed women standing nearby. Today, however, the only thing occupying her mind was the dark, unyielding intensity in Matteo DeLuca's eyes. Tell me his name, Alex, and I'll end it. She shivered, a cold sweat breaking out across her bruised collarbone. She knew the terrifying scope of Matteo's power. Working as the head accountant for his legitimate fronts meant she had seen the numbers, millions of dollars flowing through shell corporations, untraceable properties in the Hamptons and offshore holdings. A man with that much capital and influence could make anyone vanish without a single whisper of suspicion. Bradley was a monster behind closed doors, but the thought of being responsible for his murder made Alex physically sick. She needed to pack a bag and disappear before Matteo's men uncovered the truth and before Bradley returned from his firm on Wall Street. When she finally pushed open the door to their apartment, the suffocating silence of the space immediately choked her. The glass coffee table still sat in the center of the room, a cruel, silent witness to the previous night's brutality. Alex didn't waste a second. She hurried into the master bedroom, her legs burning and her ribs aching with every panicked step. She dragged a battered canvas duffel bag from the back of the closet and began violently shoving her clothes inside. She didn't bother folding her sweaters or matching her socks. She just needed enough to get to a cheap motel in New Jersey, somewhere far away from the polished, dangerous world of Leclerc and the suffocating terror of Bradley Jenkins. She was reaching for her emergency cash hidden in an old shoebox when the heavy deadbolt on the front door violently clicked open. Alex's blood turned to ice. She glanced at the alarm clock on the nightstand. It was only 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Bradley never came home before 8 o'clock. Alex. Bradley's voice roared through the apartment. It wasn't his usual patronizing sneer. It was a hysterical, unhinged shriek of absolute panic and rage. She froze, the shoebox slipping from her trembling fingers. Heavy, frantic footsteps pounded down the hallway. Bradley rounded the corner and slammed into the doorframe, chest heaving. His appearance was shocking. The impeccably groomed junior partner was gone. His expensive Armani tie was ripped off. His designer dress shirt was untucked and soaked with nervous sweat, and his eyes were completely bloodshot, darting wildly around the room. He looked at the half-packed duffel bag on the bed, and a sick, twisted smile stretched across his face. "Going somewhere, you fat, useless, he spat, stepping into the room and deliberately blocking the only exit. "Did you know? Did you have something to do with this?" "Bradley, what are you talking about?" Alex stammered instinctively, backing up until her spine hit the cold glass of the bedroom window. Her breathing grew shallow, the familiar, paralyzing fear locking her muscles in place. "My accounts!" he screamed, lunging forward and sweeping a lamp off the nightstand. It shattered against the hardwood floor, sending shards of ceramic flying across the room. Alex flinched, throwing her hands over her face. "Everything is gone. The Cayman Offshore Fund, the Vanguard Mutuals, the crypto wallets emptied, wiped clean in an hour. And then the managing partners called me into the boardroom. Someone anonymously leaked the cooked ledgers. They fired me, Penn. They fired me, and they're bringing in the federal regulators." Alex stared at him in absolute horror. She hadn't said a word to anyone about his finances, but as Bradley stood there, hyperventilating and unraveling, the chilling realization washed over her. Matteo. Matteo hadn't just asked for Bradley's name, he had already found it. In less than 3 hours, the DeLuca syndicate had completely dismantled Bradley's entire financial existence. "I didn't do anything, Brad. I swear to God." Alex cried out desperately, trying to slide along the wall toward the door. "You're lying," he bellowed. Clear's throat. He lunged across the room, his hands wrapping like iron vices around her thick upper arms. He slammed her backward against the drywall, the impact sending a blinding shockwave of agony through her already battered ribs. Alex screamed a raw, ragged sound that tore her throat. "You stupid cow," Bradley hissed, his spit hitting her cheek. "You ruined my life. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to beat you until you can't even crawl out of this apartment." He raised his fist, his knuckles white with tension. Alex squeezed her eyes shut, sobbing helplessly, bracing for the bone-crushing impact. But the blow never came. Instead, a deafening, splintering crash echoed through the apartment, followed instantly by the sound of heavy boots swarming the living room. "NYPD," Bradley shouted in panic, dropping Alex and spinning around. "I have connections. My brother is Captain Harrison Jenkins of the 12th Precinct." "Your brother," a dark, silken voice echoed from the hallway, "is currently enjoying a permanent, unrecorded vacation on a cargo ship bound for Palermo. He sold you out for $100,000 in unmarked bills and a fake passport." Bradley froze, all the color draining from his face as a tall, imposing shadow fell across the bedroom doorway. Matteo DeLuca stepped into the room. He wasn't wearing his tailored suit jacket anymore. He wore a fitted black Henley that clung tightly to the broad, muscular expanse of his chest, the dark ink of his tattoos curling aggressively around his forearms. Behind him stood Lorenzo and 2 other massive enforcers, their faces entirely devoid of human empathy, weapons drawn and suppressed. Matteo's eyes immediately bypassed Bradley and locked onto Alex. She was crumpled against the wall, clutching her ribs, tears streaming through the thick, cracked foundation on her face. Her heavy scarf now completely ripped away, exposing the grotesque tapestry of black and purple bruises coating her throat and shoulder. A deadly, terrifying stillness settled over the mafia boss. When he finally looked back at Bradley, the temperature in the room plummeted to freezing. "Mr. Jenkins." Matteo said, his voice a quiet, lethal whisper that carried more menace than a scream ever could. "You have touched something that belongs to me." Bradley backed away, his hands raised in a pathetic, trembling surrender. The bravado that had fueled his abusive tyranny over Alex for 3 years evaporated in a matter of seconds. He was staring at the undeniable king of the city's underworld, a man whose reputation for ruthless vengeance was legendary. "DeLuca," Bradley stammered, his voice cracking into a high-pitched whine. "Mr. DeLuca, please. This is a misunderstanding. She's just my girlfriend. She's nobody. You don't want to get involved in domestic issues." Matteo didn't blink. He walked slowly, methodically across the shattered ceramic the floor. "Nobody." Matteo repeated the word, tasting like venom on his tongue. "Alex is the absolute architect of my financial security. She possesses a brilliant, beautiful mind. And you, a pathetic, embezzling coward, have decided to use her as your punching bag because you are too weak to survive in your own miserable world. Please," Bradley begged, tears now openly streaming down his red, bloated face. He fell to his knees, clasping his hands together. "I'll leave the city. I'll give you whatever you want. Just don't kill me. I'm sorry. Apologies do not erase bruises," Matteo said coldly. He didn't even bother to touch Bradley himself. He simply gave a subtle, almost imperceptible nod to Lorenzo. Lorenzo stepped forward and delivered a swift, brutal kick to Bradley's stomach, folding the former banker in half. Before Bradley could gasp for air, Lorenzo dragged him up by his collar, pinning his arms behind his back. Matteo crouched down gracefully in front of Alex, ignoring the groans of pain echoing from the center of the room. He reached out his large, warm hands, gently cupping her tear-stained face. His thumbs carefully avoided the sensitive, bruised skin on her jawline. "Are you broken, Mia Bella?" Matteo asked softly, his eyes searching hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "I'm okay," she whispered, her voice shaking violently. "Matteo, please don't kill him here. The mess." "There will be no mess," Matteo assured her, his thumb gently wiping away a fresh tear. He stood up and turned back to Bradley, who was currently bleeding heavily from his nose, dangling helplessly in Lorenzo's massive grip. "Killing you would be a mercy, Bradley," Matteo sneered, his lip curling in disgust. "Death is too quick for a man who systematically destroys a woman's soul. As of 30 minutes ago, every dollar you ever earned belongs to me. Your brother has abandoned you. Your firm has blacklisted you. My men have forwarded the comprehensive evidence of your corporate fraud to the district attorney's office." Bradley sobbed hysterically, a pathetic, broken sound. "You are going to federal prison," Matteo continued, his voice echoing like a judge delivering a divine sentence. "And in that prison, you will be placed in a block controlled entirely by my associates. They have been instructed to ensure that every single day of your 20-year sentence is an agonizing reflection of the pain you inflicted upon Alex. You will live a very long, very painful life, Mr. Jenkins." "No, please, DeLuca. Have mercy," Bradley shrieked, thrashing desperately against Lorenzo's iron hold. "Get this garbage out of my sight," Matteo commanded sharply. Lorenzo and the enforcers dragged the screaming, flailing man out of the bedroom, hauling him down the hallway and out the front door. The apartment instantly fell into a heavy, echoing silence. Alex sat frozen on the floor, her mind completely overwhelmed. The monster who had terrorized her, belittled her weight, and beaten her down was simply gone, erased by a man who was now kneeling in front of her once again. "Come," Matteo said softly, offering his hands to her. Alex hesitated. "Matteo the First, I don't know what to say. Why did you do this for me? Look at me. I'm a mess. I'm fat. I'm bruised. I don't belong in your world." Matteo's expression softened into something incredibly raw and vulnerable. He reached forward and gently gripped her waist, his large hands easily spanning the soft, generous curves of her hips. He pulled her up, supporting her heavy frame effortlessly against his solid, muscular chest. "You listen to me, Alex Cartwright," Matteo whispered fiercely, his lips hovering mere inches from hers. "You have spent years listening to a weak man tell you that you take up too much space. But in my world, a woman like you is a goddess. Your curves, your softness, your brilliant mind, they are magnificent. I do not want a woman made of sharp angles and hollow bones. I want you. I have wanted you since the first day you walked into L'Église and boldly corrected a $500,000 error in my ledger without flinching." Alex gasped, a fresh wave of tears spilling over her cheeks. But this time they were tears of profound relief. For the first time in her life, someone was not just tolerating her body, they were actively worshipping it. "You are coming with me to my estate in Long Island," Matteo stated gently, carefully, wrapping his arm around her uninjured shoulder and guiding her toward the bedroom door. "You will be seen by my private physician. You will eat the finest food my chefs can prepare, and you will rest until these shadows fade from your beautiful skin." "And after that?" Alex asked softly, leaning her heavy weight against his side, finding an incredible anchoring comfort in his strength. Matteo paused in the doorway of the ruined apartment, pulling her slightly closer, his dark eyes burning with a fierce, unwavering devotion. "After that," the boss whispered, pressing a tender, reverent kiss to her forehead, "you will take your rightful place by my side, and I will spend the rest of my life ensuring that no one ever makes you feel small again." Thank you for experiencing Alex and Matteo's intense journey. If you loved watching a ruthless mafia boss protect his queen and redefine true beauty, please hit that like button. Share this drama with fellow romance lovers who crave suspense, twists, and deeply devoted heroes. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more real-life inspired stories. Your support helps us bring more gripping, twist-filled tales to life. Drop a comment below with your favorite moment from this story.